Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The U.S. Justice Department releases 3 million pages, 180,000 images and 2,000 videos linked to Jeffrey Epstein. The release comes after a missed legal deadline, with officials saying it ends a major review to ensure transparency. The U.S. government enters a partial shutdown after Congress fails to pass the 2026 budget. Lawmakers signal a quick fix as the White House moves to ratify a Senate-backed deal next week. According to a statement by the Danish Foreign Ministry, Denmark will reopen its embassy in Damascus after a 14-year closure, with Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen saying embassy will resume operations to better monitor developments and boost cooperation with Syria. According to Tigrayan officials, one person was killed and another wounded in drone strikes in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, raising fresh concerns of renewed clashes between regional and federal forces amid tensions following the 2020-2022 war between Ethiopia's National Army and the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Iran says it is ready for fair and equitable talks with the United States as regional tensions continue to rise. President Donald Trump refuses to rule out military action, while Tehran says negotiations cannot occur under threats. According to Palestinian health officials cited by media reports, Israel has carried out its heaviest airstrikes in weeks on Gaza, killing 27 people, including 3 children in attacks on a police station, homes and tents as fragile US-brokered ceasefire holds. According to local officials, at least 200 people were killed after heavy rains triggered devastating landslides at a mine in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which is controlled by M23 rebels, while authorities warned the toll could rise as rescue operations continue. According to international media reports, Guinea-Bissau opposition leader Domingos Simões Pereira was released from jail on Friday after months in detention following the November military coup that ousted President Umaro Sissoco Embalo just days after presidential elections. Now we start this hour with India. India has moved quickly to reject any suggestions of impropriety after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's name appeared in a reference with the newly released U.S. Justice Department files linked to Jeffrey Epstein. New Delhi said the mention relates only to Prime Minister Modi's official visit to Israel in July 2017, the first ever by an Indian Prime Minister. India's Foreign Ministry has called any other allusions in the email trashy ruminations by a convicted criminal and said that they deserve to be dismissed with contempt. The comment comes as the U.S. Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of records, along with thousands of videos and images under a new transparency law aimed at shedding light on Epstein's activities and contacts. Epstein died by suicide in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's an international relations expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General Dr. Kochhar, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, even though Indian government has quickly denied any connections or such, how do you think this will look for Prime Minister Modi?
Thank you, Suma.
Yes.
There's no basis for this kind of accusation being made against Prime Minister Modi. It doesn't stand to logic, because anybody can speak anything and you'll accept it. I think it's utter nonsense. We can't today in our some file or something like that, something emerges against Trump. Then what happens? Trump also do something of that kind? No, I mean, you see, unless you have substantial proof and evidence to suggest that something, what you are mentioning in those files is happening, I don't think, I think the Ministry of External Affairs also made a strong statement here, trying to refute the fact that it's only the fact which is emerging is that Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel in 2017 and nothing beyond that. So I think this controversy must be given its burial and in the strongest terms, because today what is happening, we are all aware of the geopolitics, what is happening in the world, and what are the attempts being made from the US to cast aspersions on our own leadership in our country, and the trade deals and the kind of pressure, the tariffs, all this, we need to relate that, because we can't be thinking in isolation, because these are very interesting times when one sees these kind of things happening. And I think Prime Minister Modi is beyond all this, and he's above board, and we need to condemn this kind of whatever these Epstein files are bringing out, because taking a hypothetical scenario also, that in case you say that, okay, yes, okay, please bring out the evidence and facts, because without that, nobody would accept that, and especially when you are casting aspersions on the integrity of a particular person, which has always been beyond doubt. I, as a citizen of India, would like to take this opportunity to strongly condemn this kind of a statement, and I would like the people who are making the statement to be slightly more responsible in what they are speaking, because you are speaking as leader of a nation of 140 crores people, and it's not a joke.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that. And also, Major General Doctor, after these have come out, the victims have spoken out, right? Looking back at US's political elites who were seen in this. So the victims have said that they have criticized, saying that this files or releasing of these files has in a way shed light to victims instead of the perpetrators. So what is US Justice Department's responsibility, and what should they do to make sure that the correct people are held accountable, not the wrong people?
Very good question, Suma. I think I must appreciate you for bringing this perspective in front of the viewers.
Thank you.
Because what is coming out from Epstein files is a mixed bag, I'll say that. Because somewhere certain facts are emerging which I think may be verified. People are going to the court, people are appealing against some of the insinuations. At the same time, many of these facts which are emerging have no concrete evidence to suggest the involvement of the people into that. A second very pertinent aspect, what you mentioned just now, is that the victims, you are trying to highlight the victims. What about the people who have perpetuated these acts? What kind of stringent action do we see on part of the US administration in bringing those people to book? And these in this times of digital transparency, I would say that I could use the word transparency. In this world of digital transparency, I think the people merit an explanation, especially in the United States, when large number of disclosures are taking place, and some of them very, very damaging to the reputation of some of the high-ranking people in that country. It reflects on morality, it reflects on ethics, it reflects on integrity. So I think these are larger issues which would need to be addressed by the Department of Justice, because merely bringing out the facts is not enough. We should take this to the logical conclusion.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to Pakistan. According to reports, separatist terrorists in Pakistan's Balochistan province have claimed responsibility for a series of coordinated attacks across southern Pakistan, killing at least 21 people, including 11 civilians. The violence, which targeted civilians, police stations, and parliamentary installations, also led to the deaths of 10 security personnel. Injured victims were rushed to Quetta Civil Hospital, where medical teams continue to treat casualties. Let's listen in.
फायर शुरू था, हर तरफ दौड़ मच रही थी, लोग भाग रहे थे यहाँ वहाँ। तो खालिद शहीद के एरिया में वहाँ पे एक पुलिस वाला शहीद हुआ था, तो दूसरा जो था वो ज़ख्मी था। तो वो ज़ख्मी की मैंने किसी और दोस्त की मदद से TF सेंटर नहीं है जो मशरकी बाईपास, उस पे अंदर चले गए, ले गए वहाँ तक। वहाँ पे उन लोगों ने रोज़मर्रा रमचे में उसको रख दिया, फिर वहाँ पे पट्टी मट्टी हो गई। जब मैं बाहर वापस निकल के आ रहा था, 2-3 कदम मैंने लिया, बाहर निकलते ही फायर तो चल रहे थे, मैंने सोचा बस चला जाऊँ, तो मुझ में गोली लग गई।
फायरिंगों की आवाज़ थी, घर से बाहर निकला है और बस उसको गोली लगा। अभी तक गोलियां चल रही है, कोई भी नहीं है। सरियाब में आगे भी जाओ, अभी भी आप लोगों को मिलेंगे। कमरानी रोड जिधर भी जाओ आपको यही लोग मिलेंगे और कोई नहीं है, कोई पूछने वाला नहीं।
Now we move on to Middle East. According to a statement from Gaza's media office, since the ceasefire agreement with Hamas took effect on October 10th, 2025, Israel has violated the agreement 1,450 times. These violations have resulted in 524 deaths and 1,360 injuries. On Saturday, between early and late morning, at least 21 people were killed. An Israeli airstrike targeted a tent for displaced people in Khan Yunis, killing 7 members of one family, including 5 children, women, and an elderly person. Another airstrike on a residential apartment building in western Gaza City killed 4 people, including 2 girls and 1 woman, with several others injured. Additionally, Israeli forces hit another residential apartment in eastern Gaza City, injuring more civilians. The statement highlighted violations like gunfire, armored vehicle incursions, airstrikes, and the demolition of civilian homes. Humanitarian aid levels have also fallen significantly short, with only 28,927 of the required 66,600 trucks allowed through, and a mere 2.7% of the needed fuel trucks entering Gaza. The statement accused Israel of not fulfilling its commitments to open border crossings, providing necessary infrastructure materials, and allow medical equipment to enter. Now for this discussion, we welcome Ms. Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief, joins us live from Romania. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking thank you. Now looking at this, where's the ceasefire? How fragile is it once again? And what are we to make of this latest violations once again by Israel? It's and crossing 1,400 ceasefire violations.
Well, it looks pretty terrible. Donald Trump brokered the ceasefire on October the 10th, so we've had more than 3 months, coming on to 4 months, but it's still a huge amount of times it's been violated. But we also have to remember the source of this information is the Hamas Health Ministry, you say. So it's possible there are some exaggerations in the figures. We have no way of double checking that. But it also seems to be clear there's been heavy and repeated violations, including, very sadly, overnight, particularly as we're in a new stage with the board of peace, and Donald Trump is absolutely determined that the peace will come to this troubled region. But if it is true that 27 people died, and we don't have evidence that they didn't, it is pretty bad, and Israel needs to respect this peace agreement. But on the other hand, we don't know what is on the ground, how the Hamas militia are behaving either. So although it has been reported and it's clear the ceasefire has been violated repeatedly, we don't actually know the absolute extent because we don't have another source verifying this information. But what is clear is that peace has not arrived in Gaza. That's for sure. And despite all the efforts from foreign actors, the United States and other outside actors, peace is very slow to come to Gaza.
Yes, and so as U.S. pushes for phase 2 of ceasefire, is there like a difference or disalignment in the reality on the ground versus what U.S. wants and got signed in the papers?
I think so. I mean, I think there is definitely a disconnect. I mean, ceasefires are notoriously difficult to enforce when there's been a war that's been going on for so long. It's notorious. They're always being broken. But they are a start. Let's not be completely pessimistic. They are a start, and they should lead towards peace. Peace doesn't happen overnight. You just can't turn off the tap and the killing stops. That would be ideal, but it generally doesn't happen. But in this case, there is a disconnect, but behind the scenes and even publicly, the United States needs to put on pressure on the IDF, on Israel, on Netanyahu, but also on Hamas, which is a military terrorist organization. They are as part of this phase 2, they're supposed to be handing over to a Palestinian technocratic government or technocratic committee whose job is actually to get life back to normal for ordinary Palestinians. So pressure still needs to be applied. Whatever's been decided on paper and agreed on paper is fine, and it is a start, but it's not perfect. It has been violated, and the pressure needs to, you cannot assume ever that once a ceasefire has been signed, then you can walk away from the table. You can't. You need to keep up the pressure, both behind the scenes and publicly if the case does, if it needs it.
And last but not least, how do you see or analyze the alignment of U.S. and Israel? As you know, Israel wants or prioritizes Hamas disarmament, and while U.S. pushes for phase 2.
Yes, they do, but also the U.S. sells arms to Israel, but Israel is Israel is not at all popular in the region, and it does have a lot of enemies, including Iran, and not only in the region. So it does feel it needs to be armed. It's got its famous iron dome, and it does want Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. It does want Hamas to be disarmed, but by the same token, you can't leave the Palestinians completely without any defense, while Israel has plenty of weapons. That doesn't seem quite equitable, that doesn't seem quite fair to me. So it's a delicate balance, but Israel does have a lot of enemies in the region, and Gaza has just been one of its problems. But it is, as part of the peace deal phase 2, Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, does need to be disarmed. But I don't think that means that Palestine should be left without any defense.
With that, I would like to thank Ms. Alsan Mutler for joining us today and sharing that insight from Romania. Now we move on to our next news. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that Iran is seeking a deal to avoid military action, but the U.S. has set a deadline for negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program. Trump has warned that time is running out, highlighting the large U.S. naval presence in the Gulf as a sign of increased pressure. Iran, however, remains firm, maintaining that its missile defense systems will not be part of any talks and insists that its nuclear program is peaceful. Iran's foreign minister has expressed that while no direct talks are planned, negotiations could occur based on mutual respect, while Trump had laid out two conditions for avoiding military action: halting Iran's nuclear development and ending the suppression of protests. Human rights organizations report thousands of deaths linked to the recent protests, with the final toll possibly reaching much higher. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us. Good to see you. Now looking at this, thank you. Now looking at this, why do you think Iran is so emboldened, or Iran wants U.S. to see eye to eye? And how do you see the capacity of Iran? Is it capable of counterattacks or protecting their vision or stance right now?
Well, thanks very much for having me.
Thank
It seems to me that the latest situation between President Trump and the Iranian authorities indicates that the Trump administration does not have the prerequisites for waging peace, bringing peace to the area. It's absolutely clear that you have to have a strategy, you have to have partners, you have to have principles in order to wage peace, just like you wage war. This has not happened with the Trump administration in regard to Iran. Instead, it seems that the transactional approach of President Trump is the one which is prevailing, and that is that you will enter into some sort of negotiation on one point, and that President Trump will come out the winner. This approach is aided, I guess, by what President Nixon used to call the madman theory, and that is that your adversary does not know that he or she is dealing with a rational actor, and is therefore willing to make a deal. This is an entirely inadequate way to approach the problem of Iran, but this statement, the latest that there is an opportunity for negotiation, is just a continuation of this transactional approach. The problem is that President Trump thinks the madman approach will result in short-term gains in which he can say that he has won a victory. But at some point there may be a miscalculation which leads to general war. This is entirely possible in regard to Iran, which does have some military assets. They do not have the ability to win an all-out war, but as has been shown with U.S. involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq, much less Vietnam, you do not have to show that you have the ability on Iran's part to absolutely prevail militarily in order to bring about a situation in which the United States does not accomplish a transactional goal. So what has to happen now is to step back and try to bring about a partnership approach with other nations who in the past have been willing to work with the United States, including Europe, including India, including Saudi Arabia, and come up with an overall strategy which is realistic to provide some stability. But that's not the Trump administration and not President Donald Trump's way of proceeding. His way is we're going to have a transaction. I'm going to bring about sufficient pressure. The other side won't know how far I'll go, and therefore they'll make concessions. That is, in the longer run, an entirely inadequate way to approach the problem.
Right, and as the U.S. says that diplomacy is open, but what is realistic right now? Because the armada is right there, ready, and it seems like Iran is not unlikely to change their stance on nuclear, on their missiles. So what diplomatic channels are open?
Well, diplomatic channels are open, and it's always better, as Churchill said, to have jaw rather than war, which involves the killing of peoples and widespread destruction. But we do not have a pathway forward to bringing about a genuine peace here. One saving grace for President Donald Trump is that he does not seem to be willing to commit to long-term hostilities. His style is to send over a bomber and bomb something, whether it be in Nigeria, Yemen, or to capture some leader and think the problem is solved. That is evidently the way in which he's viewing Iran. He has said, last June when they did the attack on the nuclear facilities, that this problem was solved. And yet now, in addition to citing protection of the demonstrators, which he seems to have backed off from, he's citing stopping a nuclear program again. Well, he can't have it both ways. He didn't solve it by sending in some bombers, and that's not the way in which problems like this get solved, or at least ameliorated. But he doesn't see that. The most likely situation is brief flare-ups of hostilities, and then Trump declaring some sort of victory and backing off, and waiting for the next transaction that he thinks he can win. But it's the trouble is miscalculation, and when you get into that situation, you can have escalation. And you have general hostilities. So as I said earlier, it's time for others who have interest in the region, other powers, to put the pressure on the Trump administration to come up with some sort of coherent strategy,
Yes.
in which Iranian problem can be at least ameliorated.
We will be eyeing that. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Raymond Vickery for joining us today and sharing that insight. Now we move on to Ethiopia. One person was killed and another was injured in drone strikes in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. According to reports, the drone strikes hit two Isuzu trucks near Enticho and Jendebta, two places in Tigray about 20 kilometers apart. The Tigrayan officials have said that the Ethiopian National Defense Force launched the strikes but did not provide evidence. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.